Good afternoon and welcome to All for United. This is the Pride of All Europe podcast. With me today is Stu and Charlie. How are we doing, boys?
Yeah, just about recovered from the ball festival last night. You know, I think it was, I don't know, plain sailing for everybody really, apart from the old jocks, bless them, which is a shame. I was sad to see them go out, but didn't do enough over the 3 matches, did they? So you get what you get in football, and the Scots got what they got. So
absolutely, mate, absolutely. My 200-1 bet doesn't look so great now, does it?
I didn't want to mention it. I was going to be the bigger man and not mention that today because it's shocking. I mean, it could all end in tears anyway, because Germany could go tonight and you could be done in one fell swoop there, Benny boy. One fell swoop.
I know, mate, I know. And I look like a complete tool on one side. But anyway, England already qualified into the next into knockout stages before this game. But finishing top of the group now, boys, with a 1-0 win. What's your feelings on it, Stuart? Did they flat to deceive a little bit, though, last night?
Yeah, I mean, look, when you enter a tournament, you always set out to win your group. It's a staple. It's a mandatory. That's what you must do because what it kind of does, it breeds confidence in the side. And I'm not a confidence footballer anyway. You just get on with it. If you are at that level and you're playing for your country, get on with it. I don't want to hear confidence. But we have so many issues to resolve if we're going to progress past the next round, which is going to be difficult at best. And for whatever reason, poor Harry Kane, he's such a passenger at the minute because Southgate's system formation just doesn't suit him. I did tweet last night that I was quite chuffed that Grealish was in, but disappointed not to see Sancho, and why, I did question his choice of Saka over Sancho. Most people on Twitter last night, most people on Twitter today will say, well, he was vindicated in his choice for Saka. Saka had a great game. But I don't really buy that because everybody knows the quality that Sancho possesses. And we don't know whether we would have won more comfortably if Sancho had played or started at least. And so from that point of view, I don't really buy that argument that Saka was the right choice. He had a very, very good game. I think he can look at his debut with pride. And after that, dear me, it was just terrible. I thought we were good for the first half, slackened off in the second half. Obviously, Sterling got his goal, Grealish made it, but I didn't think Grealish set the world alight either. To be brutally honest with you, so it was all in all, it was Big Z. How are we? All in all, it was a performance that won us the group. But on the flip side, has made our task way, way more difficult than perhaps what it should be. But in terms of our overall play, we're nowhere near the level required to move forward in this tournament. So I don't want to be hearing Grealish coming out this morning, which was reported. I want to make my mark on the Euros like Gaza, etc., etc., etc. It boils down to the Phil Foden conversation of yesterday. You shouldn't be speaking about that. You should be talking about the collective. You're representing me, you, and everyone else in this country. We don't want a big-time Charlie, as Sir Alex Ferguson once famously said. We want people who want to win for the country, not because it elevates them to a certain stature in world football. And so I was disappointed again with that. Southgate, to me, is very, very weak. I don't think he's got a handle on that camp. And until he gets a handle on that camp, we'll never progress. Because I've just got this feeling they kind of tell him what they want rather than the other way around. So, but we're through. Hey, look, we're through. So let's go.
Thank you for joining us, Matt. Thank you for making up the foursome, pal.
You're more than welcome. No problem at all.
What did you make of it last night, pal? Are we really struggling to score goals this tournament? Is it going to affect England going forward? We've only scored 2 goals in the whole tournament so far, and I think we've only scored 4 in the last 5 matches.
Yeah, it was terrible last night. I'm really disappointed, to be honest with you. I mean, to get 7 points, which is lucky enough with only 2 goals scored, is absolutely disgusting. I had a bit of a rant last night. If we come up against a big boy, as it were, we'd get our asses handed to us, and I think it's really appalling. And quite honestly, everyone was talking about how worried they were about our defence. I think actually defensively we've looked very good. It's our creativity that's been a major problem. And to be honest, this goes to Gareth Southgate. I've never truly rated him. I think he did very well to get to the semi-finals, but he's got all the gear and no idea, quite frankly. And I was absolutely disgusted. They were talking about how well they played in the first half. Do you know what? If these commentators were French fans, Portuguese fans, German fans, all the big boys, as I said, they would be absolutely drooling and wouldn't be able to commentate, because it was terrible the first half. It was awful the second half, but the first half still nothing. And this is credit to Ollie, really. We want to make comparisons about inexperienced managers. Ollie, at least from the second and third phases of getting the ball forward, is far better than that England side. It was absolutely woeful, and I do not see us getting anywhere.
Well, that's a big statement, Charlie. What we're saying in response to that, mate?
No, I agree with Stu and Mark. I said, I think it was a couple of days ago, I said Wales will go further than England in this tournament. And I think the Wales and Denmark game is, to be honest with you, a shootout. I think they're that close in terms of the quality of their teams that I'll probably go very tight. But I think that England, I thought that Saka was, I doubted him. I doubted when the team came out actually with Saka, but Saka not just going forward, but Saka with his work rate and his positioning, his team shape, his defensive work he was the best player for me yesterday. There are some positives. I think Connor put a comment in about the clean sheets. But if England are to beat Germany, I think it's going to be Germany. I really do. I think it will be Germany. I think France will just beat Portugal, and I think Germany will beat Hungary. So Germany will be second. And if England are to beat Germany, they're going to have to keep a clean sheet, I think, because I cannot see England scoring more than 1 goal at the moment. And Raheem Sterling is a man that divides opinion. But so far, Raheem Sterling scored England's only 2 goals at this tournament, and that says it all, really. I mean, he's a man that not many people rate on the ball. But if we are to play Germany, the way we're going to beat them, we're going to have to defend incredibly well. We're going to have to ride our luck, and we're going to have to counter with blistering pace against that German back three up. That's the only way I can see us beating them. But whether we can get on the ball is a thing for a start. I think that the thing that does give me a little bit of confidence for England, a little bit of hope, is it's at Wembley, and that does play into England's hands. I think England have obviously got a very good record at Wembley, but they're going to have to keep a clean sheet against Germany, France, or Portugal to have a chance. I cannot see England, and I said this with Scotland yesterday. If Scotland conceded a goal, they'd go out because they can't score 2, and it's like England. If England play Germany and they concede a goal, I can't see England scoring 2 goals. So it's going to have to be won by luck, counter-attacks, individual brilliance, set pieces. I mean, set pieces even. England have been terrible on set pieces. We haven't, in the World Cup, England were fantastic on set pieces, and that was Southgate's real strength, and even that seems to have died a bit. So, yeah, Southgate, I said it was his last chance yesterday. Will he take risks? Will he show courage? He didn't. Jadon Sancho's still sitting there. I just don't understand it. There are some positives. I thought Maguire did very well, considering he came back from that 8 weeks out or whatever it was. And Kyle Walker as well. I think he's improved. I think he had a very steady game. I prefer Kyle Walker to Reece James. I much prefer him to Reece James for England anyway. So yeah, Mark's right. The defensive side of things have been very, very good. But again, we say we kept 3 clean sheets, but if Scotland could hit if Scotland, could hit the back of the net, if Czech Republic could hit the back of the net, we could be talking about a different thing right now, because England, particularly in the second and the third game, didn't really dominate the games, and the other teams actually had better chances yesterday. Czech Republic, as we said before we came on air, Stu said Souček, that chance he had. I mean, put Tony Kroos, put Thomas Muller, put Kai Havertz in there, and they'll hit the back of the net. So England, I do not see how they get through it. Honestly, I really don't. Whenever we seem to go 1-0 up, we just sit back, defend, a bit like Jose Spurs this season, and it will eventually come back to bite us, I think.
Well, Dylan in the comments here is because Sancho's overrated. Are you sure, my friend? I'm not so sure about that one, pal. United Zone 2 on Twitter. Get yourself over to YouTube, pal. All for United. You know, get yourself liking the video. Get yourself subscribed if you're not already subscribed. Kyle Walker's one of our worst players. No,
I don't agree with that. I mean, Kyle Walker, I think you've seen throughout the whole tournament, the right back for England has been told to sit. It's been the left back that's been allowed to go forward more. So Kyle Walker, he's tactically been told to sit. So, and I don't think he put a foot wrong. You know, I know he didn't have that much to do, but saying he was, I don't think you can really criticise certain players at the moment. It's the system, the manager, the tactics. I don't think you can criticise player A, B, or C. I don't think it really makes much difference whether player A, B, or C plays at the moment. I think it's more of a tactical system side of things. So, again, I don't think it matters whether Sterling, Sancho plays. At the end of the day, I think England need particularly in that midfield, we need somebody more who can get the ball and keep the possession, like a Jude Bellingham. I'd bring him in for the Germany game, I really would, or the Portugal-France game, whoever we're going to play. But yeah, he said kept on playing back passes. I mean, he's probably been told to do that by Southgate. You know, that's how Southgate likes to play, keep the ball, play negative. So I don't think it's really Walker's fault, to be totally truthful with you.
I was just going to say the thing about people who say Walker's had a bad game or XY's had a bad game. The problem is most football fans look at what kind of magical player will do on the pitch. He won't look at the work side. He won't look at his intelligence in positional play. They won't look at how he can, stop an attack just by standing in the right position. Things like nature. They'll just look at, he's beat 3 players, he's man of the match, etc., and that doesn't work like that. When you are shackled, the way that Southgate does shackle us, and he does shackle us, there's absolutely no 2 ways about it, then you're always going to look off your game. You're always going to look disinterested because there are time periods where you won't see much of the ball at all. And I always talk about this, and I'll mention it again. That then comes down to overall player intelligence and player determination, because sometimes you've got to work your way into the game. And even if you are hamstrung in your positional play, you can still get involved. I think that was one of the biggest issues for us. And the weakness is, and Connor's right actually on a couple of points, but the weaknesses that we've had are the group itself. It was not just England, it's the group itself. It's the overall play of Croatia. They were woeful against us. Scotland, like you say, couldn't have hit a barn door on that particular evening. And the same with the Czech Republic last night. Now, when Croatia scored, the Czech Republic really should have put their foot on the gas, but they weren't bothered because they'd already qualified. So you've also got to take that into account. When you go to play the likes of France, and we would not concede against the French. That's just too good. They're just too good overall. We will always concede against the French. The same with the Portuguese. So Charlie's right, really. The team we would like is probably Germany, because although they put 4 past the Portuguese the other day, could they put 4 past a more stubborn defence?
No.
Potentially, no. But it's not that easy also just to raise your game. When you're in a certain level, it's like being stuck in a quagmire. You can you can walk, but you can't walk with any pace. And we're kind of stuck in this quagmire at the minute with Southgate because we lack creativity, which Phillips doesn't give us, unfortunately. Declan Rice doesn't give us, unfortunately. Harry Kane is coming too deep to try and be the creator in our side. Grealish, as much as I like Grealish, he kind of drifts all over the place. It makes him difficult to mark. But he's also at times very predictable. Is Jack Grealish, and then Sterling. You all know what Sterling's going to do. As a right back, I know what Sterling's going to do. As long as you show Sterling out to the byline, and you can stop the cross coming in. He lacks this overall penetration. I don't know when that's disappeared. And if you don't have Sancho on, although again Saka did pretty well last night, if you don't have Sancho on, you don't have somebody like Rashford on, who will attack the box, and that's what we don't do. We don't attack the box anymore. It happens at club level. Manchester United, we don't attack the box anymore. And you need players at Germany, because if you don't cut out the fullbacks, the German fullbacks, you'll never be able to get at the back three of Germany, because the fullbacks are way too intelligent for Germany, way too smart, way too fast. So we need players to kind of cut in a little bit deeper, maybe 3/4 of the way up the pitch, and then start making your way into the box. And we're just not doing that at the minute. And it's a real. I don't know whether Southgate has got a problem that Ollie has, that he doesn't trust the bulk of his squad. He only trusts a handful of players in there, or he just lacks.
I think this kind of, just sorry to interrupt there, Stu.
No, I'm done now.
Connor's point about why can't we be the same to Ollie, and why are we blaming Southgate, is a very good point, and obviously it's going to make us look biased. However, Stu hit the nail on the head on a couple of moments there, where he's got one of the best squads that any international manager would absolutely love to manage, one of the best in many, many years. And I think he does shackle us too much. I think that he is part of the problem. We see the numbers and everything and attributes that every player in that squad provide in their respective leagues. And I know it's difficult to, amalgamate all of those players into one team, and we go back to the talk about not being able to play together, and a bit like Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes, and all of that back in the day, But I feel that when you don't play, and maybe it's a bit of a balancing act, when you sort of are spending all your time watching these players and then not having any trust in these players, I think that's a big problem. I think that Southgate is very driven by the media. I think a lot of his choices were due to the media. And I think that a lot of his selections on the day is due to the media. And I think that that's wrong. I think that you should probably see Sancho a little bit more. Look, this is going to be very contradicting, and it's got nothing to do with Man City. Sterling has been poor for Man City, and he's brought that back to the England squad to some extent. I know he scored us our 2 goals. And someone made a comment in there about his off-the-ball movement being the best in Europe. I really don't think it is. And the amount of times he gave the ball away, and I know everyone else has done that, but Sterling in all 3 games, other than the 2 goals, he was just misplacing passes, holding on to it too long. And I think that maybe to change it up a little bit might have been okay to do in this game. We were already stuck on 4 points, potentially through anyway, based on 3rd place. I think that this could have been an opportunity to even rotate it a bit more, bring in some of those players that maybe he doesn't have that trust in, see what else works. And I honestly can't see us going anywhere. I just wanted to give you a couple of stats on Luke Shaw, actually, if you don't mind. Luke Shaw's game by numbers against the Czech yesterday: 86% pass accuracy, 68 total touches, 7 ball recoveries, 4 attempted long passes, 3 successful long passes, 2 chances created, 2 interceptions, 2 clearances, 1 big chance created, and he wasn't dribbled past once. Now, in 2 games out of 3 which he's played, he's ended the group stage with the most chances created for England, despite only playing 2 games. That says it all about going forward from an England point of view.
Very good there, Mark. At least somebody's got their stat head switched on today.
Not for me, stats. Well, no, it's not for me. I've never been a fan of stats really when looking at overall games. As I say, sometimes you could be ultra valuable to the team just by pure thought process and positional play. able to break up players, I say, but just by standing in certain segments on a pitch. It's very underrated and a lot of the time goes completely unnoticed what you can do off the ball. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to run 200 yards, to do that. You can just step sideways and stop somebody's thought process on the football. So that's the only reason I don't like stats. So Connor, by the way, he's pulled up some really good points, hasn't he?
He has pulled up some really good points, to be fair. This one here as well, I think he was in answer to it. No, I'll always back Ollie, but I do think people have been a bit too critical on Southgate when we haven't been when we've not been out.
I do agree with that. And I'll be the first to hold my hands up. Honestly, if he is able to win us a trophy or at least get us past the semi, and see better football, I'll be the first to. I'll be the first to hold my hands up. But we haven't seen that. We were lucky to get through. We've only scored 2 goals, and at the moment, you're right, Stu. Stats don't always sort of give a good storytelling as such. But I've seen what I've seen with my eyes, and I feel that it's been abysmal. And I can't. That's not something I can condone. And until they start playing better, until we start turning up, maybe it is a little bit of unfamiliarity playing with each other, then I'm going to stick to that, because I just think that is not good enough. And we are lucky to be in the group where everyone else is pretty poor every game to get through.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, though. It is, it is the group. It's just one of those. Look, the old saying in football is you can only beat the 11 that you're against, and I agree with that, but we haven't really beaten the 11 that we're against. That's my problem with it. So
another argument that came up, I was listening to Radio 5 Live 606, as you do. I don't like Chris Sutton either, but that one is on there. But anyway, the argument came up as a lot of England fans were a bit miffed with Mr. Southgate for finishing top of the group. They was like, "Oh, he should have used his nous and drawn the game, or he should have." They were claiming not to chuck the game, but sort of like finish second and get an easier draw in the group. And then, to his credit, and as I said, I don't like some of the people on there, like Chris Sutton, for example. But to Chris Sutton's credit, he goes, "Well, think back to Iceland when we finished second in the group, and people said that was an easier fixture, and then England got knocked out." So, and the whole argument was to be the best, you've got to beat the best. So, and the word that everybody at Sutton and Savage were using yesterday is: are England fans fearful? Are they fearful of your France, your Portugal, or your Germany? It's probably going to likely be Germany. Charlie, you've not spoken for a while. What would you say to them points?
No, it's let me tell you, the World Cup, when England were in the World Cup, England lost in the semi-final to the first good team they'd played in the knockout stage. Obviously, they lost to Belgium in the group as well, but Croatia was the first good team, decent to good team that England played in the World Cup, and they lost. England had a very, very easy run. So it does not matter who you play. I mean, you have to, if you're going to win this tour, if England are going to win this tournament, you're going to have to play at least 2 big teams. You cannot try and lose games and try and finish second and draw games and avoid teams. It's a load of rubbish. To be honest with you, I would rather England play a big team in the round of 16 and get knocked out, so everyone wakes up and realises they're an average side, so Southgate gets sacked, then England get all the way to the semi-final through an easy run and everyone's all jolly and enjoying themselves, and then everyone gets brought down to earth at the end of it, right? You have to beat the big teams to eventually to win the tournament. And I can't believe some people saying he should have lost the game, drawn the game, whatever. It's just a load of rubbish. But we didn't really build any momentum, did we, yesterday, even by winning the game? So we've sort of not done either, have we? We haven't really built any momentum, and we haven't really avoided the big team. So we've sort of done neither. So it's not looking good for England. And if England play Germany, oh dear, I don't really want to watch the game, to be honest with you. I can't really see much. Much positivity with it, with the record we've got against Germany and the experience they've got. But yeah, you cannot avoid football. I mean, if you're trying to avoid big teams in football, what's the point of you even playing? This is what it's all about. This is what football's all about: testing yourself, competition. This is what football's all about. You know, these players. You know, if Southgate were to try and avoid big teams, why is he in the England job? That's the whole point. England are a massive nation, a very good nation. You're going to have to play these big teams, and these players: Rashford, Sterling, Kane, Bellingham, Sancho, all these big players. You're telling me they don't want to play against France, Portugal, Germany, test themselves? That's what football's all about. You know, nobody wants to. These players want a challenge, and this is going to be a challenge for them. And will they pass the challenge? I don't think so. But if they do, they've got a chance, as I said before, because there's not one team at the moment that is stamping their foot down on the ground and saying we're the favourites for this tournament. I haven't seen. Italy have done okay; they've done very well, but I'm still not 100% convinced. Not 100% convinced, but that there's not one team in this tournament that are huge favourites anymore. It is really, really tight, and England have got as much chance as Netherlands, as Spain have got. Maybe not as much chance as France, Germany, and Italy, but England you've got to play the big teams eventually. So get on with it, as Stu said. Get on with it. Forget all this confidence rush. Get on with it. You've got to play the best players. You know, if you don't win this round of 16 game, you've been found out. You know, you're not good enough, Southgate. Hopefully he'll go, but hopefully Southgate proves us all wrong, as Mark said, and I'll hold my hands up if he does. But I think if England are going to get far in this tournament, they're going to have to keep a clean sheet more or less in every single. We're going to have to go through the whole tournament without conceding a goal, I think, because I can't see England scoring 2 goals in a game. But let's hope we're all wrong, and let's hope England smash Germany 3 or 4-0.
So, let's hope. Any more to add on that point? Did you think England fans are fearful, some of them, Max?
Yeah, I do. I think, I don't know who was on the show the other day. I think Stu, I think you were on, Charlie. We'd had a conversation about this before. You know, I'd love to sit in a room with these fans that call up, and I do believe that they get people on just to wind up, because I think it's absolutely farcical. It will be these same fans that will be moaning about Man City every year getting the easy draw in the Carling Cup. Yeah, no solidarity, and it does annoy me. You know, we look back at Manchester United, for example, in ~99, and the teams that we had to beat in order to get to the final and win that. How elated were we at the end of that? How much more did the victory mean? Do you know what I mean? And I'm sorry, you cannot, as a supporter of a country, a club, say, oh, I hope we get so-and-so in this round because it makes it easy for us. No, that's absolute rubbish. You want to see good football. You want to be invited to the best games. You want to follow your team, get through the most difficult route in order to get to the final. And I absolutely agree with what you've just said. England fans are too fearful, and rightly so. I understand why they're fearful, but that doesn't mean that we can't overcome that. And a very good point, Charlie, as well, that you mentioned is there has been no team really that's taken anything by the scruff of the neck. And this is England's real opportunity to step up, to get over that shakiness that we've had in the first few games, that sort of no idea and whatever. Because if we get over that, we have got one of the best squads, and we should be one of the favourites. And I think it would be a huge opportunity that goes begging if we don't.
I've got a few points to make on this as well, because it winds me up. It does, and it winds me up because you hear the likes of Savage or any pundit on television or radio stating that certain players will only play Champions League football because they want to pitch themselves against the best week in, week out. Well, the same applies to international football. When you get to international football, you are supposedly playing against the best in tournaments, or in knockout tournaments, or in qualification phases. And so these are players that totally contradict themselves. It's a little bit silly, really. It's almost for controversy, you know, and it doesn't need it. Mainstream radio doesn't need that. Mainstream radio, people tune into mainstream radio to listen to common sense, not a couple of morons who just think that they can be controversial for 5 minutes. And the other thing is, if you're sitting in that dressing room and you're looking around and you're looking at players that aren't willing to go on there and die for you, willing to, you know, scratch and claw their way through the game, and what you're doing out there anyway. And I've said this before, and I'll keep on saying it because it's all about player mentality. And the likes of Jude Bellingham, Charlie's right. You know, Grealish was coming out and saying he wants to be a world beater. Well, you know, if you want to be a world beater, go and take France on then in the next round. Get yourself a hat trick, you know, that type of thing. And that's what really bothers me about punditry as a whole and fans as a whole. They'd rather take the easy route, the path of least resistance. And players do it themselves. Players join City, you know, for the money and the path of least resistance to silverware. There's no real determination anymore for a player to want to go that way and win it, you know, through will and through, you know, talent. It's always, well, how can I get there quickly? How can I get there so I can increase my medal count and all that kind of stuff? And it doesn't really interest me because it's bad news, really, in any team when you've got players who have that mentality. And I can't imagine that any of these pundits, when they were playing at the time, would have thought that anyway. So I just find it a bit strange, really. But who knows? Who knows?
Who knows, indeed. So just to round off this segment, this England segment of the show, who do you reckon we get the next round then, boys? Will it be France, Germany, or will it still even be Portugal yet as well? So who do we want? Who do we really want? Who are we fancying? Mark?
France.
France?
I'd like to play France. I think that I mean, Stu kind of said it earlier, but I think that we'd struggle really, and it would be the biggest test for us, and that's what I want to see. And yeah, France would for me, because I really want to see what England can do, and I don't want this pragmatic approach.
Charlie?
I think I'd like to come up against Germany or Portugal. I think England have got the best chance of beating those. And I know we said before we want to choose people who are easier, but there isn't much difference between, I think, Portugal, Germany, France. It's not like saying, I want Sweden instead of France. You know, these three teams. You know, I'm not saying that I want to come up against these teams, but I think that the only way England win the tournament is on, I think, the counter-attacking ability that we've got. And I think we need to get this. I don't think we can win the game through dominating the game. And I think the players need to get used to Harry Kane dropping deep and players running in behind. And I think against Germany and Portugal, that'd be easier with the lack of pace that, well, particularly Germany pose. So I'd like to see, I want to come up against Germany. I think the history of the fixture, I think if England were to win that, the amount of confidence that everybody would gain and the nation would get behind everybody if we were to beat the old enemy, you know, Germany. So yeah, Germany, I'd like to see it, but just because I think the fixture's just got so much history, and I'd love it.
Stu?
I'd like to play France, but I can't see Portugal beating France. So and I can see Germany beating Hungary. So I think we'll come up against Germany. And I think Charlie's right. I think we need to play a bit more counter-attacking football. But I'd actually take Harry Kane out of the equation because he's just a dead body for us at the minute. The way that Southgate's playing, he's just a dead body. So I would take him out of the equation, maybe bring Rashford in or maybe even Calvert-Lewin or somebody else who's a bit more... I'm not saying Harry Kane isn't mobile, but a bit more cuter. Our system at the minute just doesn't suit Kane. But either way, whoever we get, if we don't show up, we're going in the Wembley doors to play the game. And as soon as we go out the Wembley doors, that'll be it. We're not coming back. So we're going to certainly have to do something on the night. If I was Southgate and his coaches, I'd be kind of breathing a bit of a sigh of relief that we got through.
I'd be worried about my jobs.
Yeah, but I'd be breathing a bit of a sigh of relief that we got through, really. And if I was the players, I'd be breathing a sigh of relief that we got through because they need to sort themselves out. But it's going to be very, very, very difficult last 16.
And it wouldn't be fair to end this sort of this roundup without mentioning Scotland. is time up for the manager? Is another manager under increasing pressure that was on loads of callers last night on 5 Live that Steve Clarke is not good enough as Scotland manager. He's took them as far as he can take them. Time for some fresh blood. Where did it all go wrong for Scotland, Charlie? Where do you think it all went wrong for Scotland?
I just think that they lack that finish, really. They lack that finish, really. You know, Scotland I said yesterday on the stream, I think I was on with you. I was on with Stu yesterday, I think, and I said if Scotland concede a goal, they'll go out because they can't score 2, and that's what they have. And as soon as they conceded, I thought that was it. But this thing about Steve Clarke, I mean, it's their first major tournament for, was it
23 years?
23 years. So talking about Steve Clarke being sacked, I think it's a bit unfair. You know, I think they've had quite a tough group. You know, England and Croatia, the semi-finalists in the World Cup, and England as well. You know, they haven't had an easy group. And I think Scotland, in my opinion, it's not a manager issue. I just think their players lack quality. I just don't think they've got enough quality in the majority of the team. I just think if you look at their team, a lot of their players are playing in the Scottish, in the Scottish League. Obviously, it's not a very good quality league. You've obviously got some good Premier League players in there, some decent players. There's no, McTominay, McGinn, Adams. They're all, Robertson is obviously their star. He's a world-class left back, but the others players are decent players. But for Scotland, they just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. It's as simple as that. And if you don't put the ball in the back of the net, you don't win, do you? So I think that was the issue for Scotland.
Unless it's an own goal, but yeah.
Well, there you go. Yeah, but Scotland. I mean, talking about the manager, I think it's very harsh on Steve Clarke. I mean, what has he got in his armoury? He hasn't got a lot of quality. If I was the manager, I would have set up exactly like he did with that back 5. What else can you do? They haven't really got any wingers, really. If you look at they've got Ryan Fraser, I know, but they just haven't. Scotland just lack goals, didn't they? Lack quality. I mean, Lyndon Dykes, just awful finishing. They missed their chances. And in football, if you miss your chances against average to decent teams, you get punished. And they did against the Czech Republic, obviously with a wonder goal from Patrick Schick as well. But yeah, Scotland, well done to them for getting to the tournament. But it's a bit harsh on the manager, I think. First tournament in 23, 24 years. I think they gave a good account of themselves. They gave everything, didn't they, Scotland? Nobody can say they didn't give everything. They gave everything, but lack of quality, I think.
Absolutely, definitely a lack of quality there, I think, for Scotland. But you look at some of the players, your Andy Robertsons, your Scott McTominays, your Shea Adams. Should have Scotland maybe have gone for it a little bit more, Mark? Or do you think this, as Charlie might have said, this might have been their ceiling? They're probably not as good as they think. Because if you think of Wales, for example, Wales ain't blessed with too many so-called world superstars or world-class players. But what they are is they're very methodical. They work hard as a team. Do you think maybe a lack of maybe hard working as part of a team has maybe been their undoing for Scotland? Maybe they've been a little bit like England. England fans are saying a bit fearful. Do you think Scotland were a little bit fearful in this tournament?
I don't think so. I think that 23 years is a hell of a long time, and I think that they would have all been raring to go. I think I echo. Yeah, that's all they need, Connor. Exactly. I think that I echo what Charlie said. I think it would be very unfortunate. I think one thing I will say, Charlie, is if you come up against these teams and you miss your opportunities, you'll get bitten on the arse unless you're playing England, and then you might be all right. But yeah, no, I think it would be very unfair. I saw a lot of talk about him leaving. He used to manage West Brom, didn't he?
Steve Clarke did,
yeah. And I thought he did a pretty good job there. I thought that he was, he had a good system. And I think that getting a team that hasn't been, made of huge quality over the years into a trophy finals is a testament to him. And I think that people are so reactionary. We talk about this all the time with Manchester United, and even last night I've been a bit reactionary today, but I have a reason to be. But to see that his name should be, in line for the sack, I think it's just a bit too much. He's got a good quality of players there that he could do better with. And I mean, everyone can improve. You can bring in a manager with international experience, and you probably could get more out of that team. But then you can with England, you probably could with France. Do you know what I mean? So you can't keep passing that buck, and I think it would be very, very unfortunate. I don't think they were fearful. In answer to your question, Ben, sorry, mate, waffled on a bit. I think that they were ready for it, and I think that they showed that against England. I think that they were just, unfortunately, hit with a series of unfortunate events. And sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not, and they couldn't score, as you said. That's our problem. Fortunately, we haven't been unlucky in any way. Otherwise, we'd be in the same position as them.
Yeah.
Stu, any thoughts on Scotland, pal?
Yeah, it's boils down to the old same lack of football knowledge, doesn't it? The lack of real understanding of what you've got as a country and a squad of players. The bulk of Scotland squad, when you take out the players that the lads have already mentioned, they are no better than League Two players. And in some occasions, on some cases, they're probably National League players. And somebody, I think it was you, Benny, compared Scotland to Wales, but there's no TNS players in no Welsh Premier League players in the Welsh squad, not to my knowledge. They're all playing at Championship level, maybe League One, but definitely Championship level and higher. And so you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, really. So Scotland, Steve Clarke's got to do. Well, who's your alternative then? It's all right banging on saying that Clarke's got to go. Well, who's your alternative? And what is this guy going to do that Clarke hasn't? You can only work with what you've got. And you've got a certain quality of player that will carry you so far. And Scotland, if they'd gone out of the group, would have been their European Championship final. They didn't. And they really only got themselves to blame in many ways, because they should have beat England. I'm sorry, there's no two ways about it. And they've got a very, very small core of very good footballers. But as an international side, you can't survive on a small core. You've got to have a bigger collective, and there just isn't that around. Scotland need to not concentrate on today, but they need to concentrate on 5 to 10 years' time, making sure their academies are up to scratch, and that players don't, if they do leave, make sure that their travel, their path is to a higher level than what they'll be playing in Scotland. Because with all due respect to St Mirren, a St Mirren first team, first 11 isn't going to get anywhere near the Premier League. Unlikely. And so, outside of the Premiership in Scotland, you've got a real problem. So their inherent problem is, I think, they've got to start looking 5 to 10 years. And that's what the Scottish FA should be looking to do. And I would even advocate, which is a little bit controversial, but if I was them, I would set up a school of excellence, and I would cherry pick players from the age of 12, and I would put a squad of 30 players together, and I would just continually play them right through the ranks up until the first team. And then you might have a winning Scotland team. But right now, you're not going to do it.
And in Connor's question, I was disappointed at 200 to 1 bet. I'm sick as a parrot, lad.
I would be the bigger man and not bigger like that.
Yes. So I put a fiver each way on Scotland to win Euro 2020 at 200 to 1. And I think Connor jumped on that and thought, oh, well, that sounds a good idea, Ben. And obviously,
sounds a good idea.
Of course he did.
Jockey 551. By the way, I if you'd listened to yesterday's show, you'll know that I was backing the Scots. I was hoping the Scots to go through because I was
about Scottish Welsh borders being bad.
And I did say it would be great that if Scotland, Wales, and England qualified, because won't that actually be the first time ever?
Scotland, yeah. They never quite
for Scotland, England, and Wales to progress.
Yeah.
Would that be the first time ever?
Yeah, it would be, because Scotland's never been beyond the group stages, so it would have been, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So,
and they haven't won a group stage game in 26 years.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Statman's back. Mr. Statman's back. Stats are okay there.
I'm here all day.
Stepman Mark.
But yeah, Jockey, if you tune into yesterday's show, forget my rant because I went on a bit of a rant yesterday, didn't I, Charlie? But if you tune into yesterday's show, I did say I hoped Scotland would qualify.
Well, I would end the show looking forward to the blockbuster one tonight, France-Portugal. Boys, this should be a really good game. This I'm really, really excited for this one. Who reckon's going to dominate this match? Are we thinking of an Mbappe? Are we thinking of a Pogba? Or are we thinking Bruno or Ronaldo? Charlie, I'll start with you, pal. Where's this game going to be won? Who's going to grab this game by the scruff of the neck?
Well, it all depends on the midfield. If Portugal line up with because they've had those two defensive midfielders, Danilo and William Carvalho, in the first two games, and they just haven't been able to grasp hold of the midfield. So if they start those two, obviously with Bruno, when Bruno Fernandes plays at 10, you often find him playing almost as a centre forward. at times plays so forward. So I actually think
Stu would love that, wouldn't he?
They've got Renato Sanchez and Ruben Neves sitting on the bench. I don't know how, and João Moutinho as well. I would bring at least one of them in to try and get on the ball in midfield, because if Portugal can't get the ball, France will just kill them. They'll kill them for 90 minutes. So I think if Portugal line up with the same team that lost to Germany, I think France will win 1 or 2-0. I think if Portugal try and change the approach and actually get hold of the ball, I think they've got a chance. But that midfield of Pogba, Kante, and Rabiot is just they're going to have to really battle for that in midfield, because those three players in midfield it's just so strong. Kante covers everything. Pogba's got quality, and Rabiot as well is a good footballer. So it depends on the midfield. If Portugal change that midfield and try and get on the ball, they've got a chance. Portugal's defence against Germany was awful. The full-backs in particular just got caught out so often. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, France haven't blown anybody away. Germany played well against France and it lost 1-0, and they drew with Hungary. So, Portugal have got a chance. You've always got a chance with Ronaldo, Jota, Bernardo Silva, Bruno. But yeah, Portugal have got to get control in that midfield. If they start, João Moutinho, Neves, they need a dictator in that midfield to try and get on the ball, because they just sit back and invite pressure, and France will eventually kill you off if you do that. So yeah, I think France will win probably 1 or 2-0, but it all depends on the lineups. As I was saying, the predictions for the games yesterday before the England game, it's very hard to predict things because, the international tournament, you've got 26 players, these nations, Portugal have got so many good players they can put out. They could change approach, change formation, anything. So at the moment, I think France will edge it, but, Portugal have got a lot of quality as well. So don't rule them out.
Stu, I'll come to you, pal. Is this the game where we're expecting the French now to really come into their own? Because we're not seeing them, as Charlie said, blowing the team away yet. Do you think this against the aging centre halves of Portugal? You got Mbappe in there, you got Pogba feeding him. That midfield of France is absolutely phenomenal. Is this now going to be the match where you see maybe France take the shackles off a little bit and then go for it?
France haven't got out of first gear, really. They've just cruised their way through both games. I know Hungary had to step up and did play quite well, but Portugal have to play a deep line today, because you are right. Mbappe's pace, Griezmann's quite quick and quite cute. And Benzema is just a bulldozer when he wants to be. But again, a very, very talented footballer. But for me, you're going to have to see the ultimate in shithousery from Pepe tonight. And I think you'll see the best of Pepe. These are the types of games that Pepe absolutely loves. And he'll be almost picking on Mbappe. I know that's what I would be doing if I was Pepe. I'd be picking on him, I'd be digging at him. I'd be tugging his shorts, his shirt, stamping on his toes when no one was looking. All that kind of stuff, pulling his ears, all that kind of stuff. You've really got to get into Mbappe and knock him off his stride. And Pepe is an absolute fucking master of that. Absolute master of it. And you'll probably see Pepe go down holding his face if he's been brushed by Mbappe tonight, that type of thing. I think you'll see some real gamesmanship. But the way that Portugal can beat France is to play deep. which is always is very, very dangerous when you invite somebody like France onto you. But as Charlie says, they're very, very quick on the counter with Ronaldo and Bernardo Silva, Jota if he plays. And so I think it'll be an interesting game, but I fully expect France to probably go through.
Mark, a quick question for you as well, pal. I've seen this a lot on social media that a lot of people are digging at Paul Pogba and Bruno Fernandes both for having really quiet tournaments so far, and both, it was saying, both have gone missing in big games. I'm assuming that in Pogba's case that they're talking about the game against Hungary where it wasn't quite at it, wasn't quite the same Paul Pogba that played in the first game. And likewise for Bruno. Bruno's people, I think someone said it in the comments here. Yeah, Jockey here said Bruno's been quiet so far this tournament. And in Bruno's defence, though, he is racking up near 90 odd games this tournament. Should he go like? Should Portugal go to the final, for example? It'd be racked up well over 90 plus games this season for club and country. Is he a bit fatigued? Is he showing that signs of not being the sharp as he can be? Because I'm not having all this digging these players out. You know, it always seems to be the same people. Like, Pogba and Bruno have gone missing. They're not really done it in this tournament so far. What would your sort of analysis of it be?
I think it's a load of rubbish. I think it could be down to fatigue. 90 games is a hell of a lot of I can't even play for 90 minutes. I'd be absolutely shagged. So, look. These people that talk about Pogba going quiet in the second game, did they see the first game? Did they see how brilliant he was in that? Let's talk about the positives. What you'll see with Bruno as well, he's playing further back. He's not playing in a Man United system. He's playing in a Portuguese system. He's playing as a number 8. He's not going to get the goals and assists that everyone likes to see week in, week out. Okay, he is not that star man within the team. You've got several players in that team that can equally provide what you need at the right time. I think Charlie hit the nail on the head earlier. I think it is going to be one in the midfield, and I think really, if it was my choice, I'd bring in Neves to play. I think he's that creative, not really defensive midfielder, but that creative spark you might need. And I think in order to beat someone like France, you need to go at them. You don't want to sit back and play defensively and allow them to come at you and even counter-attack. I think that's very dangerous. I think when you have got players like Pepe, that's a dangerous move. However, Stu hit that nail on the head as well. I actually think Pepe is still very good. I think he's got a lot of class about him. I think that he might have lost a yard of pace, like, everyone does when they're 30 in their 30s. Not me, but that's another story.
Did you have
and I think that it could be a problem for them, but I think that he will love this game. He will step up to the plate. He will go to a young, inexperienced Mbappe and cause absolute mischief. And I think this would be the perfect game for him to do that. You roll one of those players up. Griezmann's got a very hot-headed temper, and a few others, Pogba. You go at them, and I think he would be the absolute candidate to do that. So I think it's too difficult to call. And you know what? I've not followed the Euros as closely as I'd have liked to. And I didn't even know that France drew against Hungary. Now, that really it really makes me feel much better about England, quite honestly. And it also means that if we get them in the next round, then that would be good. And my point earlier would be valid. So, yeah, tough one tonight. And let's just wait and see, I guess.
The thing about Bruno and Pogba, sorry, Ben. The thing about Bruno, Mark's right, actually. Bruno plays in the Portuguese system. So, you've got to be disciplined in that system because Ronaldo isn't. Ronaldo's given the license to pretty much play wherever he feels like it. And so somebody's got to be quite disciplined. And that's one of the reasons why they play two holding midfielders. I would actually put Paulinho. Is it Paulinho? Paulinho, whoever it is. Yeah,
I can't pronounce names, pal. You're right.
Yeah, I would play him tonight because I think he offers a bit more mobility, not over Bruno, but perhaps over Carvalho. Although I do like Carvalho because he's a strong type of player. With regards to playing deep, Mark, my only thought process on that was you've got to do everything you can to nullify pace. And it is a very, very dangerous game. But if you can nullify pace and you can stop their attacking threat through pace, it does give you an opportunity, providing you can get good turnover.
That's a fair point, Stu.
Which hopefully Portugal, should get. But I can't see them beating France. I just think when it comes to it, France will just turn that key a little bit tighter. Not turn the old amp up to 11 just yet, but put it up to maybe 8, and then it will keep turning a notch as they progress through the tournament. But we know, we know really, or you would think really, that Germany, France, and Portugal are all going to qualify. And I just think France will win the group. I just think Deschamps an old school manager, isn't he?
Yeah.
He won't not want to win the group. It's like the Italians, Mancini, we've got to win the group. Have to win the group. And so they've gone out and done it. And I think France will do the same. Italy have, not lost, so we don't lose. That's the type of thing he's saying to address. We've got to match the Italians. Can't be having the Italians beat us. Unfortunately, English mentality doesn't go like that. You get out on that pitch, you cross that white line, you do everything you can to win that game of football. And then when you come back off, you look at it and you analyse it. And if you've won by 1-0, why didn't we win by 3? And if you draw a game, well, if you hadn't missed that fucking 6-yard header, we would have won. That's the mentality you've got to have.
I'm going to start a petition for Stu to be the New England manager now, because that's exactly the attitude you want.
So.
No, but it should be in any team. In any team. I mean, if it isn't, then don't pull on that shirt. So that's what I think you'll see. I think France will go out because that's their winning mentality, and they've got to win. I've always said it. A team needs 9 bad winners. Yeah, you have to hate winning as much as you hate losing, because you can analyse absolutely everything when you get in. And I've done that throughout my life of playing football. I am a terrible winner. So there you go.
Right, I'm going to end this for a quick score prediction for tonight. For tonight's Portugal-France game. I will go for more, but I'm wary of time, and Charlie's going to have his COVID jab. So, Mark, Portugal-France, which way are we seeing this one swinging, pal?
2-2 for me.
2-2. Cool. Charlie?
I'll go with a 2-0 France win.
2-0 France. Stu?
I'm going 3-2 France. I think there'll be goals tonight. I think there'll be goals. There you go. Because look, Ronaldo.
Exactly,
Ronaldo always scores. Revise your score, Charlie. Come on. Ronaldo always scores.
I feel that Bruno will shut up all the very quick haters tonight and get a goal as well.
Absolutely. I'm going to go for 4-3.
Oh,
4-3. I know it's
nil now, Billy. It's going to be nil.
It's unrealistic, and it's like my 200.
Whatever you do, Benny, go on track record. Don't put a bet on that.
No, I'm definitely not putting a bet on it. But go 4-3 because I think it's going to be a decent game. It's going to be high score. Ronaldo's obviously going to bag, as Stu said. I fancy Pogba today. I might have a 5 on Pogba. Just. Anyway,
I'm going to stick a 5 on 4-3 now, and if I lose, I'm blaming you.
Anyway, on that bombshell, I shall end it there. Thank you, Mark, for stepping in at the last minute. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Stu. And we'll see you in the next one.